Over the age of 60, there comes a moment when every active person realizes they're not going to be able to pursue their chosen sport forever.
It is the mortality moment, and in this series we're looking at ways to push that moment back as far as possible, to exercise efficiently, and in this video we're on to the hard stuff.
The previous video was all about activity in heart rate zones 1 and 2. Here you use your slow twitch muscle fibers, and they in turn mainly use fat as fuel. Exercise in these zones improves the number and health of your mitochondria, the powerhouses of your cells, essential for healthy lifespan. Graphically, zones 1 and 2 looked like this. As effort increased, we used more fat up to a maximum point where it started to dip. Carbohydrate use also increased, and lactate levels in the blood also increased right up to this point where they kinked upwards. This physiological change is called LT1, or first metabolic threshold, and it defined the top of zone 2. What happens after that depends on your goals, and I'll argue, your age. Confusingly, different experts use different zones and even number of zones, so I'm going with 5. As your effort increases, your fast twitch muscle fibers come into play. These cannot use fat as fuel, so we enter the next zone. Because fast twitch fibers can't use fat as fuel, fat use drops away, eventually to 0. Carbohydrate use continues to increase, and at this point you burn more carbs than fat, and this is another physiological markers. We can train to push this to the right, which means we can ride longer, the body holds more energy as fat than carbohydrate, and we benefit our mitochondria for longer. Lactate levels in your blood also increase. At a certain point they kink again, this time sharply upwards, usually around 4 millimoles per litre. After this, lactate builds faster. This is the second metabolic threshold, also called lactate threshold 2. It's also close to a cyclist's functional threshold power. Top endurance athletes specifically train in zone 3 to enable their bodies to use lactate as fuel and again push this boundary further to the right. However, if you're that good an athlete, then you probably already know this. For most of us, zone 3 training is physically costly. It is doing muscular damage to provoke a training response, but it will require longer recovery. It's a trade-off.
Let's be honest, we all know that when you're out for a ride and you come to a hill, it is so easy to stray into zone 3. But this is exactly what the coaches mean when they say us amateur riders do our easy sessions too hard, and conversely our hard sessions too easy. The time taken to recover from this might not be worth the training response that it provokes. And for me, well, I've decided that it's not. The trade-off is not worth it. So I try to avoid zone 3. The next zone though, well, that's different.
This is the hard work we should do. Zone 4 effort maintains and improves our VO2 max. That's the maximum amount of oxygen a body can use. It is closely correlated with longevity and health. As I explained in this video, it declines with age, and if it drops too low, you won't be able to carry out the daily chores of everyday life. In zones 4 and 5, this happens. Fat use has dropped to 0, the fast twitch muscles can't use it. Carbohydrate is the fuel being used in these zones. After the second metabolic threshold, blood lactate kinked again and is now climbing to the point of unsustainability. Trained athletes can continue to work in these zones for longer. Their zone models go up to 6 or 7. Most of us can't do that, but we can use zone 4 to help train our VO2 max. I couldn't find a simple, practical test to tell you whether or not you're in zone 4. You could use a percentage of maximum heart rate, but you don't need to know the boundaries to use it for training. Intervals are the usual way, indoors or out. The classic is 4x4x4. That's 4 minutes hard, not an all-out sprint, but you should only just be able to finish each 4-minute block at that intensity. Followed by 4 minutes easy. This is recovery, where your heart rate should drop back down, so extend the duration to make sure it does, and repeat it all 4 times. With a warm-up and cool-down, this is a hard session, so we should only do this once or twice a week. Even that sounds like a lot, so I try to include a zone 4 hill climb on my weekly long ride.
Well done. Come on, Simon, let's go. Good job. Keep it going. Keep it going.
Out of curiosity, I had my cycling VO2 max measured at Edinburgh Napier University's Department of Sport, Exercise and Health Sciences.
Well done. Keep it going. Keep it going. Keep it going. Keep it going. Good.
It's a ramp test with progressively harder stages until the point of exhaustion.
Okay. Good job, mate.
Done together with a lactate threshold test, it costs £162. You can only measure VO2 max in a laboratory. Anything else is an estimate, but I've done that too for comparison. In this video, I tried two well-known self-test methods, one walking, one running. I also used my Garmin devices and my Apple Watch that collected data over time. This is how their estimates compared to the lab measurement. The lab found I can use 45 millilitres of oxygen per kilogram of my body weight per minute. The Rockport walk test estimated 36.8, the Cooper run test was about the same, Garmin and Apple came up with around 44, so they were closest to the lab. But just because my estimates were all fairly close to the lab measurement, it does not mean the same pattern will be repeated in other people.
I've said this in several videos now, but an absolute VO2 max measurement I don't think is important for most of us. It is the change week by week, month by month that matters. And as long as you're using the same method to estimate it, then you're keeping an eye on your VO2 max. You will know whether you are improving, maintaining, or declining. And all of us should at least strive to improve.
I've not mentioned Zone 5. Physiologists argue about this. Some say the cardiovascular response is the same as Zone 4. High-level athletes use it to develop a different type of fast-twitch fibre along with neurological responses. And I feel regular Zone 5 training can be too punishing for me. So, setting the numbers aside, here's the plan I've worked out for myself. At least 3 hours a week, I should be getting my heart rate up, a little breathless, ideally to a level where I can only just hold a conversation. This improves my fat metabolism and increases the number and health of my all-important mitochondria. I listen to my body and dial it back if I feel tired. I switch to brisk walking. It is still bringing benefits. Once or twice a week, I do something that really gets me gasping and my legs aching, either outdoor or on the turbo. Zwift has several VO2 max sessions. And again, I listen to my body and don't force any of these if I'm fatigued. Remember, this type of fitness is not everything. Balance, nutrition, strength, mental health, and more are very important for us older athletes, which is why this is part of a series, and it doesn't all fit in a couple of videos. You can find some of the other ones here, and these videos might offer some inspiration for adventures on your bike. Please give me a thumbs up. I'll see you again next time. Goodbye.